Hey, Fitzy here, back at it again with another one. I got a 56 Pontiac here that's been off the road 37 years and is missing some parts. One of the parts that was missing was a battery tray. I had a look online, tried to see if I can find one. I can't seem to find a replacement panel for this particular 56 Pontiac. So I went ahead and I made my own battery tray. Stick around. Alright, let's get started. A few of you noticed this in the background in my last video. It's a 56 Pontiac. It's been laid up a long time and slowly being restored. That's the last time it was on the road, 1984, 37 years ago. And it's been picked and poked. It was taken all apart, off chassis. Everything was done on it. Pieces got lost, parts got misplaced. I got a bin of stuff here I got to go through. I've been asked now to get it running and get as much on it as I possibly can. The gentleman who owned it passed away, and the family wants me to get it running for them. So I got to do a bunch of work on it, and they did a beautiful job on the car, like full interior. All that was done, all reupholstered. Beautiful car. Right. And the hobble that I got to do with this here today is it has no battery box. Now I can turn around, I looked it up online trying to find battery boxes for these, and the problem with the 50s cars, each Pontiac had his own pieces and parts. And I thought about just going and getting a generic battery tray and putting it in there. And I said to myself, I've run into that before, because where this mounts here in them 4 holes, the problem you're going to have is that it'll be a high spot there and a low spot here, and then it'll all be stood like this on the corner and everything. I said, Tony, just go make one. It'd be just as easy to go make a battery tray for that now and have it done. So, like I've looked at, like here's an example. I got the new one for Wendy's car, new battery tray. They're very cheap, but if you look at the way it's shaped here on the bottom, the 4 holes would go here, here, and here, right? And the problem you would have is this here wouldn't sit level if I used just a regular generic, like a tray out of a Mustang. So like I could probably look it up and wait, but the way things are going here lately, it's hard to get shipping on anything. So I got one here, the original one that was bad, had piece welded on it. So I can go by that to make something. It's just the problem I got is the bottoms of these are always the issue. Trying to do that, I'm going to do up some sort of design or something, do something on the bottom of that one just to give it a bit of strength, and go from that. So that's basically it. That's what I got to make for this. It's a quick little project. I figured you might find it interesting. I'm here all week now. I've been picking and poking at this. There's not a lot of content. I'm chasing down gremlins, getting the handbrake figured out, what pieces are missing, trying to order parts for them, trying to find parts for it, the brake booster on it, all that type of stuff. I'm going to have to get a brake master cylinder put on it because it's been laid up 37 years. So. But and I'm doing wiring and all the little slow stuff, trying to get things figured out on it. So let's get started on that battery tray there now. Okay, first thing I did, a whole lot of piece of old locker door, bit of recycled metal. I'm going to use that. It's pretty heavy gauge, it's 18 gauge, so that should be plenty heavy enough for this. I went and turned around at just the battery that's going in it. So I laid it in the old Mustang one just to give an idea on how it fits, so I can probably use this to go by, which I'm probably going to use. The only thing with it is see the way this here is set up. I'm going to do the same thing on both sides. I want to be able to bolt it down across the top here, this way here. This way it's going to be mounted. What I've noticed with a lot of them that I've seen online, that's the way they are mounted. A lot of the 56s got a bar across here. Some had a box around it with little tabs on it or front corner, but I think that's going to be too close to the terminal. So I'm going to say scrap that and just go across the top here and make something up. So I'm going to base everything off of this one here. I'm just going to make it longer on both sides. So all I did is I cut out a piece, I measured it up, I got a 14 by, what was that again? By 8¼ is what I done it. Inside here is the size of the battery that you see here, where I got it done. My plan is I'm going to bend this side up, bend this side up, and then bend it back down again to give it a lip to put a hook in it that I can bolt to here and here. I want to round the corners, much the same as around the tray. As you can see here, I like to do some little thing like that and set it up that way. So what I got to do now is I got to go ahead and cut these corners out. I'm not too concerned about everything yet. I'm trying to figure out some way design, but I got to bend this up to get a fitting first in the car. So then I got to mark where the holes are got to be for the mounting points. And then once I get them marked and drilled, I'll decide what way I'm going to do a pattern, or if I'm going to do a stamp in the middle here of some way, shape, or form. I'm going to be a bit play around with this. I'm doing it all just off the cuff, just as a little project, some little thing you can probably play around with. So let's see what we come up with here now. So I got the two ends bent up. I never bent them up on a full 90 because I don't want them on a 90. Because I want to have a bit of a shear. I'm going to trim this off after the fact. I might even put a little roll lip on it. I don't know yet. But let's take this over now and do a quick test fit in the car. Tight squeeze. Now, as you can see, that's where that'll lay like that. So now I got to drill 4 holes in this here to line up with them 4 holes there. So I'm going to go over on the bench now. I'm going to measure these up and drill 4 holes in this and just have that done. So then I knows where it got to mount to. So all I went and did is I measured it out and I went and marked out the points where I'm going to drill holes to. So I'm going to drill holes in them there. I was off a bit here. I was trying to keep it centered, and so then I had to play around with the measurements a bit to get it right. So I finally got it so that these 4 points here are the same as on the car, we hope. So I'm drilling them now. Go over and test it out and see what it looks like. Right off the bat, I fooled it up. Oh my. I got these 2 holes right, but I took this measurement here. And what I intend to do when I go at things, I'll measure off 1 on the measuring tape. And then I'll go to say, if something's 4.5, I'll go from 1 to 5.5. And that's what I did here. And the mistake I made is that I actually made it 5.5. It's supposed to be 4.5. So I'm going to have to go drill 2 new holes here now and weld up 2 of them first. Start all over again with them 2 new holes. Hey, mistakes happen. So now there's the right spot for the holes. So now what I got to do now is I don't know if I'm going to weld them up or not. I might just probably put big plug holes or something in them. I don't know. Something to think about. I can weld them up after. Yeah, I can weld them up after if I need to. Yeah, for now I'm going to leave that alone. What I'm going to do now is sit down and think about whether I'm going to bend this first or I'm going to put some sort of pattern in this first. Playing around with a few ideas, so let's see what I can come up with. Okay, so now I was debating on whether to weld that up. I'm going to wait on that because I'm planning on making a dimple dies and dropping these down, and I'm going to do something else as well. But what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to make the tray. I'm going to actually make it all up, and so I'm going to bend this up and get this side and everything straightened away. And all I did is I took a piece of old scrap angle iron and cut it to length so that it just fits in there, and I'll clamp that to the top of the I-beam and I'll bend that over. Now I went ahead, took the T-dolly, clamped it in the vise. I went and rounded out the edge and sanded it a bit, so I'll make it a bit round. And I'm going to use that now to round up my edges here in the corner. See, it rounds up the edges nicely. It's a nice round edge. I'll weld up them corners now. There's a bit of a gap there. I got my piece of brass. I'm going to stand it up in the corner like that, and then I'll weld that way. So that way I'm going to put a piece in it and keep the inside half clean. Now I went ahead, welded up all the four corners, as you can see, grinded them all up. As you can see, it's not on a 90-degree angle, just to give it a bit of a style to it. As you can almost like a little bowl. And I had to give it a quick line. So I'm going to be cutting this off out here a little bit lower than this. This is all excess here now. But what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to bend this down right here and bend it over on both sides so that I can start setting it up for the two mounting points for the battery hold down. Now I just clamped that onto the I-beam and lined up the edge at the I-beam on both sides. Just going to flip it over. Now what I want to do, now it's time to start getting fancy with this and do some neat things with it. This here comes across here. I like for this here to have a lip on it, but to come over here, tape out around and go back in again. So then there's like a section here that's wide and it tapers away in here. Much the same, similar to, nope, there it is. But anyway, what I got it in my head to try here now, this is an experiment, and I'm going to play around with it. Is I'm going to take the grinder down and cut this piece of angle iron up here and along here, make this side look like this so that it tapers out, so there's a spot right here to drill a hole for the battery tray hold down bracket to go. And I'm going to dress this up and put a little design in it while keep it nice and flat. Then I'm going to clamp this on here, probably going to drill a hole in it, bolt it on, turn it upside down, clamp it in the vise, and then I'm going to hammer form this section around the edge of the angle iron. Let's see how this comes out. I'm going to make it symmetrical. Here's what I did. I turned around, I went over here and I rough guesstimated with it. And I turned around and I cut the piece off it. I cut it off, then I notched this after the fact. But now that I got this off, I can left with this piece here. I'm just going to take this piece now, put it over on this side, and clamp it in place, scribe it, cut that line off, and then both sides will be the same. So I went ahead and I sanded out the edges and rounded it all off. So it had a little shape to it all. Then I went ahead, I found the center of it, drilled a 1/8 hole. Now before I go drilling that any bigger, I'm going to clamp this on both sides and find my center, clamp it in place, and then drill 2 1/8 holes in that so the holes line up. And all I'll do is just clamp that to that, like so, and use that 1/8 hole that I already got there as a pilot hole. A bit of patience with it. There we go. Fix better days. The same thing over here. Before it does that, I'm going to take a measurement. 3.5. That's 3.5. That's 3.5. I'll go ahead and I'll drill them out bigger. Turn that around that way. And there's all I went and did. Just bolted it onto that. Now I'll just square that up to that. And I'll clamp that right into the vise. All the way down. Doesn't move with me. Now you can see what I got done there. I think that's going to hit there on the edge when I folds it over. So maybe I'll raise it up a bit. Give it a bit of room. Just going to get it tightened up. Yep. Now the piece of angle iron behind it is going to be something that I can nail over. I does this a lot of different things. You can just use it as a hammer form, and it'll actually bend over what's the heavier metal, which is what's below it. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hammer this around here to get a lip. But I've got to keep an eye on it, make sure it's not going to rotate on me. As you can see there, where it hammers over, now I'll just turn around and I'll dolly that a bit better. But you can see the shape of it there now, look. It's got a nice little shape to it. I'll just take that apart. Here's what you're left with. Nice little shape. Now I'll grind this down, got the head off of this here, cut that flat, but I'll have a little raised lip on it to give it a bit of strength. Let's do the other side now. Now, find some bolts. This is a container of bolts that came with the car, with a lot of the original bolts in it, or leftover ones, I would say. I got the original style that bolted on to the sheet metal, the way that were put on these cars. I got 4 of them there now. You got to have lots of nuts and bolts in them. So now here's the next thing we got to do. We got all that done, all dress soldered up. The sides got to be cut down, not going to do them yet. Now these bolts are going to go down through here and bolt on. Now the problem you got right now is that they are sticking up. What I got to do is I got to countersink this section here, so when this bolt goes in tight, then when the battery lays down, the battery will lay on the tray and not on this. So I'm going to make a simple little dimple die now that'll bolt in through there, that'll tighten it down, that'll draw that down. Having said these punches here, and there's a small punch. I'm going to use that piece first. You can probably use a piece of pipe with a washer on it, but that's already made the size that I want. So that's going to be my first piece. I'll put the rest of this away now and start making the rest of it up. So after much digging, there's that piece of the hole punch tool. I got that. And I got a 3/8 nut and bolt. And I got a piece of pipe that I cut off. 1.5 inches, I think it is. And on a washer, an old shock washer, that I'm going to put on there and weld on there to keep everything centered. Went ahead and I welded the washer to the piece of pipe and I welded the nut to the piece of pipe. Nothing pretty. I don't get carried away when I make these jigs and stuff like that, because you can be very, very fancy with this stuff, and sometimes it don't work, and sometimes you'll only use it once. So this is what I got to come up with. Anyway, I welded that nut on that, so it just makes it easier to change it. I haven't got to worry about that wrench. I got to use the socket. And of course then I got this piece here, which will fit down inside this, like so. That'll go down there to give the punch. And I got these 3 washers here set up for the depth, because when the thread runs out to here, that's going to be my depth. So then I'll know for a fact that each one is consistently the same depth. So let's rig all this up here now. Drill out the holes so they take a 3/8 bolt. So I got that there now laid in place. And that's clamped into the vise there, and the bolt's going down through it. So now all I'm going to do is just tighten this up, and that's going to draw down. I'll keep tightening this up till I runs out of thread down here, and I'll see where I'm to. That's the depth that I've chosen there so far. Let's see what that looks like now. May have to adjust it. Let's see if that's deep enough. Drop that in there. Nope, needs to go down a bit more. So I'll adjust the washers now, have it so it draws down some more. I had to adjust the depth. Took out the washers, put a nut in there and another washer to get the depth that I was after. So let's try it now. I got the other one figured out, so let's go ahead. you're left with. Alright, I got them all done, and I'm thinking the middle is pretty bare. So I've been sitting here now about 20 minutes, going through my mind, giving ideas, put an X in there, having to make a jig for that, put a die through the middle of it. I was going to reuse the die that I had for the Datsun pickup floor panel, but it's too big. I think it'll end up crushing all this out here because it's out on top of these here. And I thought about using that, but I said, no, leave it alone now. Come up with an idea, and this is what I come up with. I just want to put some little pattern or something in the middle. So I'm thinking about, I got in my head, I'm going to weld that right there in the center, just a few tacks around that just to hold it in place so it don't move. Then flip it over and hammer down into that. And then I'll have a diamond shaped pattern in the middle. I just want to give something just to take the rawness off it. I don't want to put a lot of time into it. I could sit down and make jigs and take wooden bucks and cut wood out and all this type of stuff, but you know, how far do you actually want to go? I'm just trying to find quick and fast ways to make something simple. And you know me for that stuff. So I'm going to set this up, center this in place now, and run a couple of beads on that there, and then see what it comes out like. This is all I got done. I just got that tack welded around there. I clamp that in the vise now. Let's see what happens here. I'll have ruined this whole thing now. Oh, it didn't come out half bad. Something off the top of the head. I want it somewhere in the middle of it for like any water build up would fall into the middle of it. I could drain it out, so that's the purpose behind it. And it also just adds some more strength to it. I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to weld up these few holes, and then I'm going to trim up the sides and floor up the side here and dress this around and finish this right off so that you can actually see what I got done here. And when you comes back, you'll actually see the finished product. Now, I'm going to plug weld that one there, and I'm going to show you a large chunk of brass here. I had it for a lot of years. All I end up doing is I'll lay a piece of brass underneath, like so, and I'll start welding around it, working my way to the middle. Don't work your way across it or left to right or whatever. I find is work your way around it so you can keep the heat moving. Finds it very hard to do with a constant trigger, trying to do it all like one motion. It's better to pulsate it when you're doing it. Wondering, this is what the other side looks like. From the brass. I'll grind it up there now. I decided to go ahead and mount it inside, mount it in the car, have a look at it. It looks like it belongs there. Right, it's got a nice little shape to it. It doesn't stand out. It doesn't look like just a piece of, like an old box that was just welded in it, right, or made up. It looks pretty good. I'm very pleased with it. Came out nice. And now all I gotta do is then like make hooks and everything for the batteries. Not gonna bother with that right now. My main part was to make a tray. Now I got a spot to lay the battery put in it. Little drain hole in the middle of it. Like you say, the hole downs are on either side of it, and it's got little edges on it so the battery doesn't slide on it. So, yep. So there it is, all trimmed up. You see how thick the sides are now, the way it flows up around the side there, the way the corners are round off, the way it's all tapered off. Got the little indents in it for the bolts to sink in the floors, little spot for the bolts, for the battery hole down to go in, and of course the little strength piece in the middle with a drain hole. Very simple project. Didn't take nothing to make it. I used all basic tools. There was nothing fancy. You see what I made there. I made all the dies and everything, all scrap steel to make all that. I had a metal brake to bend this here, and of course a MIG welder. But other than that, it was like scrap steel to make the little die for the side of this here. That's all I used. Old scrap piece of angle iron to make the tab to that there, to fold right around that there. You can, you know, this opens up your eyes and think, you know, if I had to do it this way, or I could have used this for that, and let your minds go wild. Like you could put an X pattern in this here. You could have made up a little buck for it, and you know, hammer formed it into it. Same way I done that. You could want to do that. You could do that. It's all done with basic tools, right? But like, you know, you could have went out and you could have bought a battery tray for it. The problem I had, like I said before, is that the four mounting points would have to be level, and a lot of times a lot of the aftermarket ones are either really cheap looking, or they usually got an indentation here and there's neither one here, so then you're putting washers on either, spacing it up and whatever. So it's just as well to make it. I got about 4, 5, maybe 6 hours into this, and a bit of scrap steel I had here, and you know, like, you know, got no investment in it other than my own time. And it's a fun little project, right? I think it's something cool to play around with, to make up. Right? Anyway, that's it for that one. Hope the tips were good, and until next time.